tries to throw you in a can. What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? One automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. A gun? Yeah, a gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like you Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun. Before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
Good evening, folks. It is live. It is Michael, it is Nick, and this is Primer Time.
Hey, Nick. What's up?
like
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. I was going to say, normally you're doing the intro, but I thought you like...
I had a problem with the button. There was a button issue. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're sounding...
I even had the intro planned out in Spanish. So.
Oh, yes. Comprar...
Well, it is Cinco de Mayo.
Hice de boom boom.
Bienvenidos a PrimerTime en UCY.tv por Cinco de Mayo, lo mejor.
Lo mejor de lo mejor.
All right, so what's going on with you?
Oh my goodness! It's good to be on. We got the first touch of hot weather today. I left my phone in my truck during work, and I came back out, and the old iPhone said, "I'm too hot to operate."
That's a battery killer over some time, and I'm not really a fan of these phones where you can't take the battery out. I really don't like them.
Yeah.
And not just necessarily the iPhone. Seems like all the new kind of hot phones are that way, and some of the lower end phones are that way too. So I'm not really a fan of that. Not a fan of a lot of the things on the smartphone, but they're almost a necessary evil to a point.
Yeah, unless you go Korean, because all those Korean phones, you can take them apart, and you can hot swap batteries, and extra memory chips, and God knows what else.
Yeah, I'm not that skilled. That's not where my talents lie.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those weeks where we've had a lot of stuff in the news. A lot of things for gun owners to be aware of, and apparently you've got the
a lot of thought-provoking incidents.
Yeah, and not only that, in the where the hell was this at file, you sent me a picture today from the Cabela's in Buda, Texas.
Yeah, very nice area. It's a fairly impressive store, and they had wads of 22 long rifle. If anybody's looking for it, it is at the Cabela's in Buda, Texas. There were more boxes of 525, 333, bulk boxes, bricks. I did not see any CCI Stingers, but there was enough to run pretty much every 1022 out there for a while. And price was about $26, so I'd say it was up maybe 10-15% pre-scare. But there was a lot of ammo there, man.
Yeah, I mean,
you
honestly,
saw the picture.
I've never seen that much 22 ammo on any shelf anywhere, not even in the Army, if we were to ever even use 22 for anything.
Oh, their ammo section was was incredible. They had more 223 and 5.56 than I could shake a stick at. I mean, there was no way that, even loading it onto a cart that you could pull it out. And I'm sure, it's a huge store, so I'm sure they've got tons and tons in the back. Um, that being said, it was a huge store. They had everything.
Yeah, but I mean, when you come down to buying it at a big box store, I mean, literally in my area, my choices are limited. I've got the mom and pop store, I've got a Gander Mountain, and I've got Walmart. Those are my only three choices.
I'll tell you, Gander Mountain to me seems like a kind of a fancy sporting goods oriented Walmart.
Yeah, but they're a sight bit better than Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, well, Dick's isn't one of the more appropriately named retailers out there.
It is entirely appropriate name.
Um, but I'll tell you what, this Cabela's was awesome, and I they treated you really, really nice. I got a free hat because it was my very first time to the Cabela store. So, shout out to Cabela's for free stuff. And I would say the prices were a little more expensive than hitting up to Walmart, but they had everything.
Well,
everything.
I
And
mean,
employees were kind, polite, knowledgeable. They were very attentive. I don't know if that's like a loss prevention thing as well. I'm sure it is, but any question you had, they were right there.
Well, that's a good thing because I'll tell you what, when I've gone into Dick's just looking for ammo, I got the feeling that I was the inconvenience as the customer as opposed to being a valued shopper.
Well, I think that all has a lot to do with the management of the store and and of course the employees. I'm sure when you shop at Gander Mountain or Dick's, you're dealing with somebody who makes probably within 10% of minimum wage, and that reflects in the kind of job they do. I mean, that's the way it is. You pay me for this. This is what you get. And I think they treat their employees a tad bit better at Cabela's. It was actually really nice. It was a refreshing retail experience. I don't know how often I'll be going. It is a truck and a half. We were on the way to something else, me and a buddy of mine, but we hit that on the way back, and I could see spending a lot of money there.
Well, yeah,
so maybe it's good that it's a
Cabela's is one of those. Yeah, Cabela's is one of those stores that it's not just hey, I'm going to go there to run in and grab some ammo. It's one of those stores that's meant to be a shared experience among the family. I had the benefit last summer of going into the Cabela's in Allen, Texas, and McKinney. Those are two little sister cities right outside of Dallas. And I'll tell you what, that Cabela's there is wonderful, and especially for me, a guy coming back from South Korea, where the closest thing to wildlife I saw was the dog running on the side of the road getting chased by about 50 Koreans.
It's the first retail place that I've been to in a long time, with the exception of two smaller shops in my area, where there's rifles out on the floor you can pick up. There's rifle shotguns. They sell new and used. I thought their used prices were a little high. I thought all their prices were a little bit high, but that's being a value shopper and whatnot. But it was the first place where I could go right up and pick up an AR-15 that was on the showroom floor without, asking somebody first. Now, of course, everything had a trigger lock on it, but you could pick the rifle up.
Yeah. And like I said, I was over at Gander Mountain the other day looking for some reloading equipment, which they didn't have, by the way. And they had the red tag.
It was at Cabela's in Buda. They had an entire reloading section that was full. And I should have bought you something, but
yeah,
I didn't.
You know how.
Because I spent it all on me. I bought some ammo.
That's a good thing to do. Yeah, like I said, out here, the only three places that I have, the only one of them that has ammo is the mom and pop store, and they're still limiting folks to 2 boxes of 50 rounds, and they're selling those CCI Stingers for $9 a box.
They had a sign asking people to be considerate with their purchases and please plan for the next 2 shooting events.
Yeah, be considerate. Think of the children. Buy your ammo now.
Well, yeah, I thought it was kind of nice. I'll tell you, there was no large rush. And there was quite a few customers in there. This was not like some of the other retailers. I happened at a Bass Pro Shop yesterday, and that happened to be far more employees than customers in there.
Yeah, and chances are the employees were none too friendly either.
They didn't appear to have time for anything except waiting for the clock to turn.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a sad sign of the times. I've been talking on occasion to when I go into the Gander Mountain. There's a former soldier that's looking for a job at a nearby government installation, and he's biding his time until the government calls and says they'll take him. But I asked him, I said, how do you
I
feel
hope
about working in a place like this? And he just says that he hates it. He wishes he could do something else, but it was ready for him to get out of the army, and he needed to get back closer to his family. So the things people do the things that they need to for the ones they love.
Well, I think at this point everybody has to weigh what's going on in the world, what's going on in the United States, what's going on in your pocketbook. We've got some kind of interesting news on what's going on in the pocketbook. We've got two different retailers with sub $400 AR-15s.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start off with the first
business perspective. That's completely interesting.
Yeah, not only is it completely interesting. I mean, you think for the longest time the sub $500 AR was like the great white buffalo. It was sacred to everyone, and now it's actually kind of becoming common. The first one we have up is a company called Ground Zero Precision, and if you go ahead and you locate your own lower receiver, they have a kit on sale right now for $374.95 with free shipping.
That comes with the lower receiver, I believe.
Not what they're showing.
Oh, maybe that was the sale they had the other day. Perhaps they sold that out. That's been sold out. But it was a complete rifle, and actually they had it advertised as the most lethal jigsaw puzzle you can put together.
Yeah, the ones that I'm looking at right now, the lowest price they have is $370.49, and it is everything except the lower receiver. And,
yeah, they had one with the low 79 the other day, and it was a completely you put it together project.
Yeah, well, that's
Palmetto State got that.
Yeah, Palmetto State has got it. They've got a lower receiver complete for 169, and then they also have another one that's blemished, and that one's for 139. So there's a lot of options out there right now for people. You can really take a little bit of time, do your research, find the parts you want, and then just build it yourself.
It's interesting that these rifles are easily available. So the $500 AR-15 is completely within reach.
Oh,
right now,
certainly, yeah, and more so now than ever before.
Or as minus the iron sights, and you've got your rail and blah 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 whatever. But if somebody needed to go bang, it's out there for $500. Not more than 2 years ago, we were looking at that same rifle going for $2,300. So, the economy is changing along with people's needs. But I truly think that this is a sign of the economy changing. So,
well, I don't only think it's that. I think that there's been a significant a reduction in the backlog. I think that especially when it comes to Palmetto State, looking at the shipping, for the last couple of purchases I made from them,
there's rifles on the market.
Well, yeah,
there's
an overdrive, of rifles out there on the market, and you'll see that reflected in the prices people are asking. And not only do you see it in the prices people are asking, you see it in the length of time that the same rifle stands on the same website. I mean, you can only ask for $800 for your piece of crap AR that you're not a gunsmith and you try to put it together with a bunch of hammers. Somebody's going to take a look at that and say you're out of your mind.
There's more than a few AR-15s that are Franken builds with oval holes.
Oh yeah, and not only that, you just everybody has their own reason for doing what they're doing, and then they try and pass that savings on to you because they're going to try and convince you that you need what they wanted.
It's custom.
Yeah. Oh, it's rust. It's custom rusted.
Well, that's just environmental wear at this point. Yeah. I didn't wish to ruin the original patina.
Yeah, yes, it's weathered.
It's
No,
combat worn. The combat worn look.
yeah, yeah. I,
That's something I've noticed is in the Cerakoting area is people buying a brand new rifle and then having it Cerakoted, which is basically a kind of a cement paint, I guess, and ceramic paint, I guess, and having it painted look like it's beat up.
yeah, either that or they just did a really crappy job of Cerakoting it and shredding.
They they paint wear on the at the appropriate pointy ends and sharp points on the rifles and ding up the stocks and appropriately to make it look like it's been through the deserts of Afghanistan, just what every clinker needs.
Well, not only that, but anybody that's had one of these rifles in the deserts of Afghanistan and or Iraq for that matter, you know that you don't want to go ahead and go out there with the 5.56. You would much rather have something that matches what the enemy has.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of that, there's some pretty interesting news in the 5.56 market. Is there not?
There is actually got a story out of the Army Times. Our dear legislators in our Congress are trying to pressure the Army and the Marine Corps to adopt a common use 5.56 round instead of having both services using their own round. The Army uses the M855A1 round, and the Marine Corps uses the Mark 318 Mod Zero. The Mod Zero round is actually a hollow point 5.56 cartridge that can defeat an enemy target after penetrating a obstacle. So, whether or not Congress has to go ahead and tell the services, hey, you're going to use the same thing, you know what? Give me the one that can go through an obstacle and kill somebody. that's what I want.
I'm kind of with you on that. If you're gonna use this object to defend yourself and this calls for lethal defense, yeah, give me the one that explodes on impact.
Yeah. So basically, this whole thing comes about because the M8551 generates a higher chamber pressure and has the exposed steel tip, which it has been shown to chew up a weapon's feed ramp. So, you've got it at the inside.
It probably takes a bit of wear on the barrel too.
Right. It does erode barrels and it does crack bolts over time. So, we've had this M8551 round for a while. We've seen it in the operating environment. We know what it can do. We know what its limitations are.
Do you have any information on the manufacturer of the new special Mod Zero?
Not necessarily on the manufacturer. I know that the Army tends to get their rounds from Lake City. So
this Mod Zero is just a pattern for the bullet. Any manufacturer can make it. This is not necessarily specific to one manufacturer.
No, I don't believe that it's proprietary, and the government tends not to do things in a way where they have to pay a single person the rights for something. We saw
everybody.
Yeah, we saw that with the new Army uniforms that are going to be coming out. There was a company called Cry Precision that came up with the multicam pattern, and the Army decided that was a more effective pattern than the uniform, what we have now, which is the universal camouflage pattern, or what people refer to as ACUs. And the Army went ahead and said, hey, we'd like to buy this.
The digital ones are the ACUs. Is that correct?
Yeah. The nasty green looks like it would look like it was able to get you lost in a floral pattern couch. Yeah, that's the ACUs. So,
okay.
When we decided that the Army was going to go ahead and go for the multicam uniform, Cry Precision said, yep, and this is our price. And the Army said, nope. And we're going to develop our own, and we're going to totally infringe on your copyright, and we're going to call it OCP, the Operational Camouflage Pattern.
Operational as in stick it, buddy.
Yeah. So there you go.
We are bigger than you.
So
that's how they do business, right?
Yeah, they when you have government accountants involved and anything that has to do with a service.
Government accountants can be defeated easily. I mean, like look at the Pentagon on September 11th. That's where all the government accountants were. So I mean, that could be defeated easily. What can't be defeated easily is the undying manpower and willing to kill the United States military force. Because you guys are trained well. You guys are top notch.
Hey, when you want something destroyed overnight, you give us a call.
Yeah, you guys will free the shit out of it. And I'll
whether,
tell you,
whether you need it or not.
whether you need it or not. And good luck that you don't live on somebody else's oil. Because I'll
What do you mean
tell you,
somebody else's oil? It's not our fault they were on our oil before we got there.
I must have been reading from the MSNBC playbook.
Let me tell you a story about our Native American friends. Not my fault they were on our country before we got here.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that one works out.
Yeah.
So, Project Aslan, you're not getting my house.
Nope. Ain't happening.
Sorry, this is home.
So no, Michael actually got an update for you on the reloading standpoint.
When is the Project 300 blackout shoot 'em up going?
Well, I did receive a package in the mail from my good buddy Chris, about 100 rounds, of course, just spent cases, but about 100 rounds of the 5.56, and that will become 100 rounds of 300 blackout here in the near future.
That's a whole lot of dead pigs right there.
That will be. So right now I'm doing everything on a budget like everybody else, and I can save my pennies for a while. But I was also able to go ahead and put together to this weekend. I felt like I was letting my inner Bob Vila out. I went and built a bench for my reloading area, assembled my reloading press onto a table, and started production on the 175 grain soft point Sierra Pro Hunter 8mm Mauser rounds. So starting out,
that's a good place to go and hide.
Yeah, and it went ahead and looked up the load data, and using the digital scale from Hornady and the DuPont IMR 4064 powder. Came up with a good recipe for anywhere between 41 and 45 grains of powder. And once I get some time, I'll be able to go ahead and see which the rifles like the most and start reloading that.
I think I'd like to hear that. So you've not fired any of these?
No, because in this area, you're going to be in less trouble shooting something probably as a person and as a member of the Alcohol and Beverage Commission than you would be just as a recreational shooter. Well,
that's kind of a shame that you don't have a place to actually go out and play.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is, dependent upon where you live, whether it's inside city limits, whether it's outside city limits, in a county or unincorporated area, you got to really know what your localities, what your jurisdictions are, laws for firearm use. We hear all the time about guys going out into their backyard shooting these computers to, show their daughters that they don't need to be on Facebook all day, and all of a sudden somebody hears it 3-4 houses away and calls the police, and they have a new case on their hands. I believe the last one was happening in Colorado. So
I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, shooting the kid's computer. I think it's I think it's one of those life lessons. There's certain things that can only be learned a certain way, and like one of those things is like a snarky. A person can be snarky and give wise ass answers to everything, but fairly much a punch to the nose turns snarky off for the rest of their life, or it should if it's a good punch.
Oh yeah.
There's certain things that just aren't happening anymore, and we're being hit with an assault from all fronts, and we can see it in the push for gun control.
Recently, speaking of the push for gun control, let's talk about Maryland for a minute.
Yeah, let's talk about Maryland, and let's refer to the city of Baltimore in particular.
Yeah, certainly. So anybody that's got a TV and not living under a rock has seen that the individuals who
the rock.
Yeah, but
there's a TV app.
You've got internet. That's all you need. So anyhow, anybody that has seen the protesters rightfully exercising their First Amendment rights to destroy property, if you had listened to the mayor of Baltimore, uh,
They need a space to destroy.
they needed space to destroy. But that's not what she said when she got back and asked, as she was trying to hide behind the Reverend Al Sharpton, who I like to say, by the way, is no more a reverend than Jeffrey Dahmer was a gourmet chef.
Oh yeah, if Sharpton's in on it, you people are screwed.
Yeah. So anyhow,
That's
did you notice
funny.
the sheer lack of people defending their property?
Nicholas, to be honest with you, and I'm not trying to be gory or brutal, but I have a feeling that these riots would have completely different outcomes if one of those shopkeepers had stayed behind in their shop and, let's say, armed with a Ruger 1022 with a couple of BX-15 magazines. And the minute that first, I don't know, let's say it was a garden patio chair or a trash can or traffic cone come through that window, you would have opened up on the first dude that entered that store, who obviously entered under intent to do him ill.
Oh yeah.
And, he drops 4 or 5 of them, and rioters move on from his situation. Let's say it's somebody who's a little more savvy and has something that packs a bit more punch.
Oh, and but here's the thing.
40 rioters. He drops 40 rioters, which could be easily done. They're grouped up.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So from all the news that I saw, and it was on a constant loop. You've got the city cops from Baltimore laid out in an area, just advancing to protect a police vehicle, and then retreating back. This went on all the night. And you've got nobody willing to defend their own property, which in that state, it's not very easy for you to do anyhow. I mean, if you've seen some of the stories lately about Maryland and their penchant for controlling people, you're looking at a product of a society that's been run by the same folks for over 50 years. And you know what? I'll tell you, there was a lot of Korean shop owners in L.A. watching that, thinking that won't happen again. Not here. Not with us.
Oh, no. In 1992, Koreans stood up and basically took control of their buildings, and they were not looted. They were not burned out. The ones that did not take control of their buildings were burnt out.
Exactly. And you think about it, crowd control tactics, at least from what I've experienced and what I've been a part of, you can get things to end amicably with zero casualties on either side. However, when people are intent on causing damage, things will come to a head and damage will be done. It does matter how you deal with the people that are antagonizing the protest. And what I mean is the people with the megaphones. You drop the first person with the megaphone that incites the riot, other people take notice.
That's kind of what I'm thinking with the guy who I saw a story about a Chinese couple who lost everything. I guess they were on vacation while the riots were occurring, and they got back, and their store was, of course, destroyed, and they had no insurance. And I mean, aside from the unfortunate timing of the vacation, they'd have been there, and Pops would have opened up with the 870 and dropped 2 or 3 looters, and was able to reload or grab something else. He still may have his cigarette shop.
Well, and that's the thing. At what point I just kind of take it for granted, living in places where I've lived, that I do have I have the right to defend myself, defend my property, and to defend my family. And my property would include any business that I own.
Where I go, I have the right to defend myself. I don't care where I go. No, I've got the right to defend myself.
So my point is that what about those people who believe in their heart of hearts that the police are there to protect them? That the police are there to make sure that Officer Friendly is there with a friendly smile and a greeting of the day.
I don't think those people are growing in number, but I think the ones that truly believe that are becoming far more vocal than they were before. But let me ask you a question that's been bugging me about this whole thing, and this goes back to the, well, whichever, pick the last like 4 or 5, 7, 12, 10, 15 major riots that have gone on, throughout North America. Why do they always leave several older police cars in, full view of the cameras to catch fire?
Oh, because
You know,
those are the ones that they didn't want to do the repairs on.
it's interesting.
So we know in our country we have a problem with police departments across the nation using civil asset forfeiture, and I've heard it described from police as pennies from heaven, because there's absolutely no criteria and there's no stipulations about how they
I
use.
smell dope.
Yeah.
I smell.
So
I like your truck and I smell dope.
yeah, exactly. Uh, it's all too easy for police departments to get the negative rap that they're getting because of the behavior of the cops. So you know what? I generally grew up in an area where I understood that you comply with an officer's directive, because officers in that town were generally likely to shoot you if you got out of line. You notice that there's not very often a riot in Las Vegas. Um, would you mind to expand on that?
Yeah, Las Vegas police have a habit of shooting first, asking questions later, and in the process of shooting first, will dispense an inordinately large number of rounds downrange.
But the difference between them and New York City is that those officers from Las Vegas can actually hit their target.
It's not uncommon for a suspect shot by Las Vegas PD to have like 17 bullet holes in them.
Yeah, and anybody who's been around a police stop in New York City realizes that there are far more innocent civilian casualties, what we would call collateral damage, than
Well, and let's actually relate this to something physical as well. There for a long time, the Glock was in various calibers. Started off with the 17, but there was the 17 New York series, which ended up having like a 12-pound trigger. It was a completely different trigger than the pistol was sold with on the commercial market. It was 5 pounds heavier. Now that really doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's in retaining accuracy on the second, third, fourth, fifth, 17th shot. That large trigger, that large heavy trigger pull leads to somewhat more inaccurate shooting.
Yeah,
And
certainly. It's going to affect your
just
fundamentals of shooting. Your trigger squeeze is going to determine whether or not you're shooting left or right of your target anyhow. And when you're having to exert more pressure, you're definitely going to throw off your aim. You go ahead and you add in the breathing, and you can be very wide or high or low of the mark.
So, I mean, like there's institutional problems with how the whole system is run. The whole policing system is run.
Well,
Let me say this: the greatest tool that we have to stop any more sorts of police brutality, killing guys when they're selling cigarettes on the street corner, or happen to have stopped a fight, whichever version of the news story you hear, or tasering grandma when she's doesn't have insurance, or shooting an old man who called 911 for a ride to the hospital because he's got asthma, but like he didn't comply with like cop orders or something. The quickest way to stop all that kind of bullshit is to stop paying these large, gigantic $20 million settlements and shit out of the city funds.
oh yeah,
These funds have to come from the cop themselves, the man who perpetrated the problem. And then when his retirement and his ability to ever earn a dollar again is taken away, then it comes out of the large general police retirement fund. And you know what? Nothing stops a 23-year-old cop from tasering grandpa like a 55-year-old cop putting his hand on his shoulder and saying, "Sonny, you're not going to fuck up my bass boat in this retirement."
yeah.
I'll tell you what,
You will see a lot more 23-year-old police department guys being tased by the 55-year-old.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that turns that shit right off. Officer about to retire, Officer Murtaugh totally wants to take his RV to Arizona this summer.
Yeah, what a moron! What a moron!
Like he's from son is son when you're from Iowa.
I suppose. Watch out for all them blue hairs driving in Arizona. Yeah,
I'm telling you,
yes, you folks in Michigan and Minnesota, you're exactly who I'm talking about.
I'm talking about states that start with M or an I or have blue license plates. You people are dangerous on the road. Your elderly should be put in check.
Yeah, yeah. There's a reason why
So
Arizona only makes you get a driver's license that's good to your 65. Because after you're 65, you probably shouldn't be on the road, especially in a Cadillac.
I would say that's different, but I'm going to tell you what. Some of those blue license plate Buicks were death machines.
Oh yeah, never mind. They drove like Italians.
They did, but they had that seat, that low slunk down in the seat thing, way before the gangster kids did.
Oh yeah,
Way before the kids did.
sure did.
That's fighting grandpa style, Sonny.
Yeah. So we've got a crime doesn't pay story.
Let us have it.
So in Orem, Utah, a shopper with a concealed weapons permit shot and killed a man who was trying to carjack a woman outside of a grocery store. So good on you for go ahead and taking somebody down that was obviously willing to do harm to another person.
I think that's a wonderful thing. I think the city should reimburse that man for his ammunition.
Well, see, that's the thing, Michael. They're only going to have to reimburse him for one round because this individual was able to shoot and kill said attacker with one shot. So,
What a citizen! That is the man.
police departments across the nation should take notice.
That's what a little bit of training can do for you. Does it make mention of any other make and model of the weapon by any chance?
No, it didn't say, but it did say that he hit the individual squarely in the chest.
Oh, that's in the 10 ring right there.
Yeah, somebody was paying attention to the center of mass principle because
I think he understood the dynamic relationship between the front and rear sight and the target, the triad of love, it seems.
yeah. So this was something where the individual had carjacked earlier and then stopped at the store to try and switch vehicles, and this happened at
Well,
11:20 in the morning. Say that again, Michael.
I said, well, where else would you go but to get a new car but at the store?
Ah, there you go. So that's
And 11,
that's one of
11 in
these
the morning,
things.
applaud him for being up early, getting the day started, before noon. That's a lot.
Yeah, before the sun gets warm. So yeah, there's one less creep in the world, and of course they don't make any further notification about the individual who did the shooting. They just say that police
Absolutely not.
don't expect to charge him, and yeah, they're saying that he's not going to face charges, but an investigation is ongoing. Because you know what, you're not a cop if you're not doing an ongoing investigation.
Well, why would we need you if you weren't doing an ongoing investigation?
Yeah. So I mean, if you're just going to show up and put the yellow caution tape, you're not needed.
I think we're just looking at it from the wrong perspective because I do believe they think that he is needed because he generates a great deal of revenue.
Yeah. Well, it's
Because
it's
last time
funny.
you got a ticket.
It's funny because I haven't heard of the fallout from this individual case saying that the individual who was attempting the carjacking, his civil rights were violated, but that's only a matter of time before that comes out.
Well, that is interesting, and depending on his age, he may have been turning his life around and attempting to re-enter high school at the age of 26.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
except for the fact that he had prior convictions. So, if he was trying to go ahead and turn his life around, he may have been trying to get to the other side of the prison that he was previously in.
well, I mean, the world's a big place, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting in the like three different news reports that I see out of this from the Associated Press, from Yahoo News. Everybody makes sure that they report that the individual used one round and shot him square in the chest.
I think this is going to be one of the issues that's focused on regarding the next push for gun control. I believe that they're going to push for magazine limits again. I think this is seriously, this is one of their trophies. This is one of their highlights. They recognize the defensive use of a 30-round magazine, of a 75-round drum, of a 100-round drum that functions well, of a handgun magazine that holds 15 to 18 rounds. They completely recognize the defensive ability that you have with that, and that is something they must step on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it this way: we got companies out there right now that are really pushing the South Korean manufactured large round or large capacity drums.
Now, these are manufactured by the company KCI, and they also manufacture for the Korean military. Is that correct?
I believe so. So,
Okay.
the last couple emails that I've gotten from the company have the Glock model 9 millimeter and 40 caliber, kind of model in specific. But they're really pushing those right now, and these are
Now, are those the 33 round magazines? The
no, well
30 and
they have
33
the
round?
33 round magazines, but they also have the 100 round and 50 round drums.
For the Glock pistols.
Yes.
That's a tad irritating.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of
I,
speaks to, it kind of speaks to the sign of the times, I guess. And when you go and you actually look on the classic firearm site, because today is the 5th of May, they are celebrating with the Mexar Mendoza 22 rifle Olay for the Cinco de Mayo low price of
what is the price?
$149.
¿Cuánto pesos por este rifle, por favor?
Yes, yes. And it is a
Yes.
16 round tube magazine, so it's perfect for plinking environment control, as they say.
I'd like to see what that Mendoza rifle, if it's very, very similar to the CBC Magtech rifle that Mossberg puts out as the 702 Plinkster.
Yeah, it's not in that same, because if I'm not mistaken, that Mossberg Plinkster is of the AR variety in its design.
No, no, it's the 715T, and I believe the T stands for trashy.
Yeah,
715. That's stay away from that.
yeah.
And
So
you will see that advertised times for $400. You will see it advertised retail for $249. But everybody who's got one for sale on the secondary market wants 400 for this AR-22.
so when you look at
Buyer
the
beware.
when you look at the extended magazines, they've got the 31 round mags for the 40 caliber Glocks for $15, the 50 round drum for $70, the 9 millimeter 50 round drum for $50, and then the 9 millimeter for the 33 round magazines for $15. And then they also have the 45
And
caliber 26 rounds for $15.
honestly, the only use I could see for one of those 9 millimeter or 40 caliber drums would be if you've got an AR-15 that takes that feeds from AR-15 or that feeds from Glock magazines. Such as like one of the JR carbines or something. And then if that's a good combination and it runs, that might be pretty wicked. But otherwise, no, I don't see use for that in a handgun.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think
it's out there.
firmly in Mall Ninja.
Yeah, that's one of the things. People are always looking for interesting buys, and you know, who knows? But I
I think
have
that would
seen
have
that most people are trying to get their Nagants back in stock, as well as their SKSs.
seeing for the price for the Mosin Nagants.
So right now, the Nagants are coming in, and these are the 91/30 models. So whether it's a hex receiver or a octagon receiver, I can't remember which one it is. I think it's an octagon receiver.
For receiver hands on at that point anymore, I think.
Yeah. So they're wanting you to get a crate at a time, and a crate consists of 20 rifles. It's going for the low price of $3,600.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's like what, like $800 a rifle?
Yeah. That's well, I'm not a math major, so
Well, I studied other subjects in my educational, but that's just an insane amount because 20 rifles should be like really a lot less than that.
you would think you would get some kind of nice bulk pricing, right?
I expect that to be $180 a rifle. That's what that comes out to be. That's a little. I
I
remember
think
those
that's
things being
about 50
$59.
$50 high. I think
Uh,
most Nagants should be coming in somewhere around 130 $150.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen them at the shows recently for insane prices, and that's without, the Soviet PU scope on it, which, every one of those is a sniper rifle that was used in the Battle of Stalingrad.
Exactly.
And I mean, those always go for $1,200, $800, but I've recently seen them go for about $400. But once again, these are on private sale tables, and private sale tables, they have a premium, and in a lot of people's minds, it's well worth it. To me, I don't think it's necessarily well worth it. If they know you have one, they know you have all of them,
Yeah. Well, and
and
here's
they
the
will,
thing: for a
you
single
know.
rifle from Classic right now, they're selling them whether they're from Ishevsk or from the Tula Arsenal for $189 per rifle, and these are without scopes. So you take a little bit of time, find it in your area. Well, these are curio and relic eligible, so you don't necessarily have to have it sent to an FFL. If you got a curio and relic license, they can send it direct to you. Um, you know, yeah. If you're into the Mosins, you know, I still think you could do better than that.
I think for the equivalent of $180, you'd be probably better served with a good shotgun.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, you take a look at some of the shotguns that are out there right now. We talked about over at the Gander Mountain, they were having their red tag sale, and almost every single shotgun that was worth half of anything was no less than $500. And in my area, shotguns are the thing. So you you really try and save your pennies when it comes to things like that. Um, but again, I think that for what's out there right now, you're gonna see things that are on the used market. They're gonna stay out there longer, and stuff that's in the new market, it's just gonna be priced out of most folks' leagues.
I'm seeing a lot of premium pistols coming back up for sale, and not necessarily from the secondary market, but from FFL dealers. And it seems to be a lot of Sigs and a lot of Kimbers are now in the $800 range versus the $1,200 range.
Yeah, well, you're paying for the name.
Well, you're paying for the name, you're paying for the skull graphics or the Molon Labe helmet. And by the way, if you have a Molon Labe bumper sticker on your truck, that I think you're missing some letters because it's really moron label.
Yeah, there you go.
You told everybody to break into your vehicle
That's right, because
because you
everybody
might
thinks you're
have
going
an
to
old
have a
block
pistol
on.
in there waiting for them to take.
That's right.
Yeah.
And while you're in, shopping in TJ Maxx, yeah, some future aspiring rap star NBA player is going to break into your truck and take your Glock. So,
Yeah. Well, could be worse. You could be fighting a $180 million prize fight.
would you call that fighting? Or would you call that jogging with the occasional punch thrown? I mean, enough hugging to where it does count as sexually appropriate for daytime TV. I mean, there is the appropriate man on man touching for.
Well, if you're if you're Floyd Mayweather Jr., the only appropriate touching that you're going to get without beating a woman is probably in that ring.
Yeah, no kidding.
He does have
I
a
saw
penchant
something.
for beating women. So
I saw something where 50 Cent, the rapper, uh, offered to like donate 750,000 or $1.5 million or something to Mayweather's favorite charity if he could read one page out of the any Harry Potter book without asking for help or moving his lips or.
yeah, wow. Oof.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. When you get called out by 50 Cent, that's bad.
Yeah, I guess that's oof. No joy in
Especially
Mudville, huh?
when you get called out by over 50 Cent over like your lack of school words. When he says you don't have school words, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah,
But he's got $200 million now out of this thing to
yeah.
watch that play.
And I think that he's done fighting after this. I think he said he's going to relinquish his title belts. So, yeah, you get hit in the head a lot, and you dance around the ring a lot, and you don't end up like Muhammad Ali. I guess you're doing okay.
And if you get out of there with $200 million on the last deal, that's pretty damn good. You can buy a whole lot of head massages for that.
Yeah, I could have been a contender.
I'll tell you what. Here's something you can't buy, and but you can get it yourself, and that's gun safety. So first rule of gun safety is every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect that that firearm is unloaded. Rule number two is you are aware of that muzzle at every opportunity. You're not covering anybody with that muzzle. Rule number three is you know what your target is and you know what is beyond your target. And rule number four is keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge said weapon, because once again I've seen it a whole bunch of times in the past couple of days, lots of fingers on triggers, and yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's anytime you get a chance to go to a gun show, you're going to see that.
Yeah, that and at the stores, I saw it at the stores. It's a little more disconcerting, but whatever.
Yeah.
You can't always throw a fit and keep everybody happy, right?
No, but you know what? You can go ahead and give a polite correction every now and again. And unfortunately, you're going to have the jackwads who try and get a little mouthy when they get called out for doing something wrong. So
Yeah, I'm not into picking fights with the flat bill crowd anymore. It's
yeah, I mean it's not gonna it's like fighting it online. It's kind of like winning the 100-meter race in the Special Olympics. Not to say that winning the race in the Special Olympics is a bad thing. It's you're still in a position where you'd like to be somewhere else.
well, not if you don't necessarily know where somewhere else is, or
Exactly.
that there's somewhere else. You might be just fine where you're at that
Yeah.
point.
So yeah, one of the things that I'm looking forward to is in the next, I think the next 2 weeks, I've linked up with the individual who's going to help me set up that 300 blackout. So hopefully we'll get a chance to tell you how it goes boom. And I'm looking at going ahead and buying some more reloading equipment so that I can go ahead and start manufacturing my own ammo for that. Between the 8 millimeter and that, everything else I can buy ready made and it's available. But 8 millimeter and 300 blackout, that's kind of hard to find right now.
Well, my plans for the next probably the next couple weeks, since I've been condensing what I own, I think the things that I use that I'm going to keep that I use far more infrequently, I think I'm going to wax them, and I think I'm going to vacuum seal them this week.
Oh yeah.
So
What
I think that's what's
what kind
calling me.
of vacuum sealer you got? You got the food saver?
I believe it's a food saver. It's still in the box. I haven't really played with it since I got it, because I got it for this reason only, and I've kind of put off doing this because, well, it's going to be a detail strip of everything, and then I'm going to have to melt some wax, and which is like double boiler, which is, oh man, that means I got to like clean some pots out and
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, and if you
But I think
don't
that's
have a good
the
double
best way to
boiler,
store
you're
them
not going to be
is
melting
that-
any chocolate either. So
Yeah, well, that's really, I'm a single guy, man. I don't melt a whole lot of chocolate.
yeah, well, for the
Every once in a while,
odd senorita in your location who wants to show up for strawberries fondue.
did you know exactly where I live? And that's a physical possibility. Why are you being mean to me at this point?
Or you got to kick a man when he's down.
No kidding. No kidding. Man, just ruined my chance with Little Debbie for the evening.
Hey, who you date rape is your own business.
But officer, she was asking me to eat them donut sticks.
What did Little Debbie make? The peanut butter, the nutty bars.
And nutty bars, and I don't know, everything. It's $1. It's all underneath $3, no matter where you go to get it. And it's
Little Debbie used to have the oatmeal cookies, and then the ones with the raisins that I used to like throw at the little kids in Iraq and try and hit them in the head.
oh, that's mean. That's mean.
Hey, at least they didn't have pork products in them. I was doing them a favor.
It wasn't a hand grenade or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot condone throwing shit at kids just because, man, those guys got a fucked up deal. It ain't none of their fault. They got a fucked
Their
up deal.
8-year-olds have mustaches, man. Those aren't kids. Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
All right, well, man, I don't know. That whole thing is just a fucked up situation, and I just wish that they wouldn't have. they wouldn't have put Americans in that goddamn situation because none of that was ours. That's all bankers' wars again, you know. I mean, hell,
Hey, that all that oil was supposed to finance the whole thing, you know. That's what we got
you
told.
know, I truly remember that press conference where they said that
that
don't
was
worry, this
old
is going
Dave
to be
Rumsfeld.
Jesus. I remember that.
Yeah.
Where
And
did
then
that
all of a sudden, the Chinese moved in, and I was like, "What are you talking about? The oil's supposed to pay for everything. Those fuckers got it all."
I think it's interesting that the Taliban or ISIS never attacks the Chinese who were happily doing business in their country.
Oh yeah. Well, you know the main refinery that Iraq has is in a town called Beji. I've actually happened to visit that town on multiple occasions. And,
Did you meet interesting people in this town?
Actually, the only people we saw at the refinery were actually employees of the refinery. Back in those days, when it was the wild, wild west, it was a pretty awkward location driving down along the Euphrates River and pulling into this massive industrial complex that had a perch for anybody who desired to get up on top of a pipe and just sit up there and be totally unseen. It was a little unnerving for me.
You know, I happen to live near a couple of plants, and I can see what you're saying. There's a lot of places to hide a dude with a Moses and a gun.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say, I've talked to a lot of World War II veterans in my day, and they've told me how they wouldn't have wanted to be in our position, and I've kind of told them, I was like, you know what, I really don't think I would have liked to have gone. I mean, aside from being in Europe, I don't think I would have liked to have gone village to village with folks who had very capable hands and very accurate weapons in those hands, and they've told me, no, you guys have got it far worse. So every generation has its heroes, and I'm not saying that I'm one of them, but I'll tell you what, you definitely don't want to go fighting in a refinery. That's for sure.
Well, that's kind of that would, to me would be a little bit nerve shaking. Yeah, I mean, I've been to several plants, and yeah, there's a lot of places to hide a dude with a rifle.
Yep. So who knows, man? We're supposed to hear some news about how the Iraqis are taking back their country on their own, and well, about frickin' time.
Well, I mean, we had to get all we could get. I mean, look at all these Halliburton contracts. I mean,
we've only been
let's not talk
for the
about
last 14 years. I mean, shit.
That's 14 years of training income. You see, you're not looking at the bottom line in all this.
I know. I'm
right?
looking for the exit. I'm looking for the exit. That's what I'm doing.
I'm sorry. The egress has been canceled for the evening. We shall stay for 100 years, in the words of John McCain.
That's right.
Yeah. No,
Mario, your princess is in another stand.
I believe that princess has totally vacated the castle, sent you a text message, and invited you to a party in Iran.
Yeah, we'll be there soon. Oh my!
I kind of, did you happen to see that Israel got asked about their 411 supposed nuclear weapons by the UN, and they said, "Yeah, we're just not going to talk about it."
Oh no! I mean that. What are you trying? Why are you being so anti-Semitic?
I was worried about the issue, kind of the world not getting nuked by some crazy sons of bitches in the desert. But
well, obviously,
I'm sorry if you find that to be offensive.
Yeah, I tell you what. So
yeah.
Anyways, I think. Yeah, I think there's more to come in that arena. You've got people who don't want to listen to the truth that are, unfortunately in positions that are making deals with the same people. So, Michael, it ended quick tonight. I want to say thanks to my buddy Chris for the rounds. Thanks to our listeners.
All right, I want to give a shout out to my boy Skip. Give me a ride. Did all the fun. All right, you guys be good.
Thanks.
You see right on TV. Stick around.